Testing.
All right, Robert. I will call to order the Board of Commissioners meeting of Nether Providence for March 28th, 2024, and we'll start with roll call.
Dave Grady, Township Manager.
Robert Scott, Township Solicitor.
Max Cooper, Ward 1 Commissioner.
Kate McKenzie, Fourth Ward. Shanna Barnes, Fifth Ward.
Good evening, Robert O'Connor here from Ward 6.
And we're missing a couple commissioners tonight for spring break and illness. Now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our executive session will be held after the meeting tonight. The first thing on the agenda is public comment. Is this gentleman here for public comment? Are you here for public comment? No, okay. Just observing for the night? All right. Well, we are happy to have you here. There's a couple committee openings on Park, Shade Tree, and EAC. I think Maureen sent around a week or so ago an explanation of what they are. I sent that around to my ward and did have a little bit of interest. So, please send that around if you haven't already to your wards, and hopefully we can fill some of those positions. In our packet, we had minutes. Let me figure out which meeting that was from. March 14th. Okay. And so I was not at that meeting. So does someone else want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the March 14th minutes. I have a second.
Second.
All right, great. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, vote so by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition?
And I'll abstain.
Hearing no opposition, motion passes 3-0 with one abstention. And one second, we have another commissioner zooming in via remote for an illness. She was.
You don't need it, but
All right.
there's 5 commissioners present.
Okay.
4,
Just to keep accurate minutes, yeah. Thumbs up. Okay. 4-0-1 abstention. Thank you.
Okay. Our 7th Ward Commissioner is joining us by Zoom due to illness. Is there anything in the solicitor's report that's not otherwise on the agenda? Anything in the engineer's report not otherwise on the agenda?
Thank you, but no.
All right, we are on to government relations report with Commissioner Cooper.
Thank you, President McKenzie. Just one item on my report, kind of an update. So for those of you that know, several years ago, we got a grant to fund a feasibility study for the Leaper-Smedley Trail extension south. Township has begun soliciting proposals for an engineering analysis and feasibility study for this potential extension, which would head south to the East Coast Greenway network off of Route 291. Proposals will be accepted until April 14th. Anyone listening with questions can reach out to the township, Maureen Theos. Dave, Maureen, can you give us, I guess, just any information about what kind of interest there's been, like how many companies have expressed, an interest in bidding?
We've had discussions with 4 entities, I think, so far, that have experience with these types of trails or studies, I should say.
And with the bidding to come in mid-April, any sense of when we would have the study back by?
Any sense of?
When the study would be completed by?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm thinking it would probably be at least a 3-4 month thing.
Okay, that's all. Back to President McKenzie. Thank you.
So this connects where? Down in like Garden City towards Brookhaven and Parkside?
So the Leaper-Smedley Trail actually runs from roughly where the kind of East Rose Valley sidewalks began, kind of near the Leaper House. And, it runs north to Smedley Park, the kind of county park at the northern part of our town. And so this would be a potential extension south on the Leaper Smedley Trail, and it would feed into a much larger kind of trail network. This is the East Coast Greenway Network, which is, hundreds of miles of trails throughout the Philadelphia region. And so this would give our residents, access as pedestrians, bikers, rollerbladers, runners and whatnot to kind of a pretty extensive trail network. And
I
we're
just couldn't picture where it's connecting to 291, because I know where the Smedley Leaper Trail is, but I just didn't know like where's the proposed connection, because that's further down, right?
And that's part of what the feasibility study will determine is the best route for this path to take. And it's going to end up having to go through Eddystone,
Oh, so it's
likely
still
part
a little
of
further north.
Ridley, right?
and pop perhaps that exurb of like Springfield. My best guess is it would run somewhere along the kind of 476 route or the kind of river, riverside trail networks that are kind of like informally in that area. So we'll
And-
see.
And with the study, that would hopefully help us identify if there are places where we need easements, which would be the most, inexpensive way to get down to that point. So, and it would take some collaboration with Swarthmore Borough, who is a partner with us on the project, and Eddystone and Ridley. So-
So Eddystone would need to get their own grant funding to do their portion.
Well, they're actually, my understanding is Eddystone actually is in the process of figuring out an extension of this same trail network. What was it? It was the East Coast Greenways Trail Network. My understanding is a couple of years ago, they had a plan that might be farther ahead of us actually, where they are kind of like organizing an extension of that trail network through Eddystone, kind of, extending into kind of like a riverside network of trails. Them obviously being on the Delaware River.
I think what they've been doing has been more focused on 291 and not the northern extension. Like we're gonna have to come south, they would have to come
Yeah.
north. And so I think this feasibility study will at least figure out how to get the trail through Nether Providence and part of Swarthmore, south there. And then we'll have to work with Eddystone to figure out
Yeah.
that
My-
next piece.
My memory of a couple of years ago when we got this grant is there was a lot of interest at the county because the Leaper Smedley Trail as it currently exists is a pretty extensive trail network in the kind of central part of Delco. But it doesn't have any connection to this, East Coast Greenways program. And so figuring out how to connect them now makes this East Coast Greenways program, that much more kind of interconnected with all the kind of central Delco communities.
That'll make sense. All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
We will move on to Parks and Open Space Committee, and I will take that in place of Commissioner Henry. First, we have Furness Park Phase 2. There's actually been significant amount of email traffic about this in the township, and I'm glad people are excited about it. So the first phase of trail network in Furness Park was a loop. This second phase will sort of run along Turner Road and connect over to Knoll so that you can stay off of that road and make the connection to the neighborhoods back there, and then sort of over to Gooley Park. So the township went out to bid for that and received 3 bids for Phase 2. The low bidder was DePaul and Company at $444,420. The township has received 3 grants totaling $301,000 for the project. Jave and Charles, our engineer, have been working on that to sort of marry the two, since we're about 140,000 off of the grant funding that we need. There's some thought we can reduce some of the cost by about 60,000 to make the overage about 85,000. There's a proposal here to maybe reallocate some of our ARPA funding from other projects over to this. We could also, is there an option to apply for more grant funding next year to continue this? Or is this sort of, should we not be trying to extend it like that?
It's gonna be a little hard to do that once you've started incurring costs.
I mean, I think in any case, we will need to figure out how to fund this. I mean, this has been long planned, and I think a great project, something that is not only just a parks project, but also a walkability issue that will get people over to the schools and the train station from sort of the Schooley Park area. And so I would be in favor of saying covering it with ARPA funds for now and thinking that there's other options or grant funding that comes along. What do you think, Dave? Is that something like, do we need to sort of decide that tonight, or we just need to decide to accept the bid tonight and make sure we're going to be funding it somehow?
We have time with the bids. I think it's usually about 60 days. You have to accept the bids. You could accept it tonight. And then we're thinking with the ARPA funding is if some of that funding was going to go to say like the Henry Lane project, not to say that the Henry Lane project couldn't happen, but then that may give us time to find additional funding for the Henry Lane project. Because grants won't usually reimburse for work that has already started.
Mhm.
So that could be a possibility.
Well, let's accept, I would propose maybe accepting the bids tonight and then working with Charles. If there's different phases, I mean, I understand work starting, but if we almost make it like a phase 3, if there's parts we can section off
Yeah.
and apply for like a third round of grant funding, let's think about whether we can do that or reallocating ARPA funds.
Can you give us an idea about how much ARPA money we kind of penciled into the Henry Lane project, just so I can get a better idea of how much we can shift around? I ask really hard questions, Dave. I'm sorry.
So right now for Henry Lane, we have $324,000 of ARPA funding penciled in.
We could break that project up as well and get different grant funding. All right, so it seems like there's enough flexibility.
Okay. So I will make a motion to accept the low bid for Furnace Phase 2 from DuPont and Company in the amount of $440,420. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Did Candace give you a thumbs up? All right. Motion carries 5-0. And then Dave, maybe for the next meeting, let's think about whether we can lob off like a phase 3 and save that for a next round of grant funding, or if we're gonna just go with ARPA funds, or what you and Charles think. Okay. Next item is also in Furnace. We had talked a couple meetings ago about proposals and bids that we had gotten for bamboo removal and this kudzu removal. The bamboo removal was a big commitment. It was I think a 3-year commitment and very expensive. This kudzu is more like vines. Dave had to explain it to me. I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but my understanding is that some sort of vines. It was invasive. It was preventing trees from growing in certain areas. And so one phase of removals already happened with the vendor Archwild Environmental. And there's also a kudzu removal event on April 20th at 9 a.m. and volunteers are needed to assist with the removal. Dave's going to circulate. Are you going to circulate that to the commissioners, or how are you going to circulate a sign of genius?
Yes. No,
Okay.
bless you.
So everyone be
We'll-
on the
We'll
lookout.
circulate that, the sign up genius, and there'll be a flyer with it.
Okay.
ArcWild's creating that. So once we have that, we'll send this around.
Okay. So once Dave sends that out, please forward that to your ward. Next we have DCNR grant application resolution. This is for the bamboo. Okay, and so this is applying for a grant to deal with the bamboo that we had talked about, which is pretty expensive. There is still a 50% match. And so this is just applying for the grant, right? Okay. So no commitment here. So I would make a motion to, is the grant through ArcWild? Is that? Okay. Oh, through the DCNR. Okay. So we need to make a motion to apply for the DCNR grant. Okay. I will make a motion to apply for the DCNR grant funding related to bamboo removal at Furnace Park. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and that carries 5-0 as well. And the final item on Commissioner Henry's agenda is Gooley Park. Consideration of approval of the turf. This has been in the works for several months now. It all actually started with the Summit Committee, which has been maybe like 6 years ago, Summit School Committee. When there was a building there was a committee formed to determine what to do with it, whether it should be turned into a community center, what we could do with the park otherwise if the building was taken down. It was determined that the building was too far gone with asbestos and mold, and so it was taken down. And that's what the lower open field is now at Gooley. Maybe about a year ago, there was always thought about turning it into a multi-purpose field. That was one of the big resolutions reached from the Summit School Committee, and we understand that Nether United Soccer and SRA had the need for additional space, and after some discussions, agreed to contribute some funding to that to put a turf field at Gooley Park in conjunction with the township, which will be a multi-purpose field and usable for other things, but given their need, they are willing to contribute some funding and will work out, a field use agreement. And so the township has 170,000 of RACP funding that needs to be used in that building footprint. And Nether United Soccer and SRA have each contributed also the same amount or significant funding, 135,000 each. So we went out to bid for the turf, and had several calls and meetings with them to discuss the specifications, and the low bid is Elite Sports Construction with a bid of $398,972. This has been the result of a lot of back and forth, and so I feel pretty comfortable that we're where we need to be on this. Does anyone else have anything they want to discuss?
To approve awarding the contract and make it conditioned upon the license agreement being signed by all three parties and the contributions made. Yeah, it is not, they have not yet signed, and there's a plan to meet in person with the township representatives of the two sports clubs and sign and exchange checks then. So
And I guess my question, just to clarify, so we're providing via RACP 170, and you said it was 135 each from the two athletic organizations, so for a total of 440. And this bid is for just under 400, so it's the 40 overage, is that just going to
Everything other than the turf, fencing, all kinds of other things.
and there's engineering that's not included
Okay.
in that.
okay, so it's affordable then with the kind of money that we've been able to set aside. Great.
Okay, I will make a motion to accept the turf field proposal from Elite Sports Construction in the amount of $398,972, contingent upon the township, Nether United Soccer, and Swarthmore Rec Association executing the land use agreement. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries 5-0. Next, we have the Public Safety Committee report with Commissioner Garson, who is also enjoying spring break. So I will take that one. He just has one item. And also there's the chief provided us police department reports for January and February. So take a look at those. But the one agenda item is the Multimodal Transportation Fund Grant Award. We got good news from the state a couple days ago that the township was awarded $208,000 through the multimodal fund to install pedestrian crossings. We had applied for $452,000, which would have provided for two crossings, one at Kershaw and Brookhaven and one at Chatham Place and Providence. We're probably going to need to scale that back to one. These are Dave explained it to me that it's the crossing. What is it? Avondale and Yale. That's the one that has sort of the much better equipment. This isn't just the little flashers that we have at Kershaw now. Just given the use at Kershaw and Brookhaven and the sight lines there, Dave and I both were thinking this one probably makes more sense. But I don't know if people want to think about this a little bit, and we're also missing some people today. We just found out about this, so we don't have to decide today. So I think maybe take a look at those intersections, take a look at what's there, and think about this, and we will regroup on this at our next meeting. But glad we at least got some funding. It's a start. All right, so on to everyone's favorite, finance administration and the bills list. All right, first is our interim bills list. These are bills that have been paid because they came due before our meeting. We have all of our aqua hydrants, 155 of them, which we've just recently added 1 or 2 at the request of our fire marshal. That's page 1 and 2. And then on page 2, we have our municipal recycling contract. Last year, we did very well with our recycling contracts, and so hopefully that will continue. On middle of page 2, Burke 1, that's for our municipal tax envelopes and bills and postage. Our Catania engineering charges are at the bottom of page 2 into page 3, broken down by the specific project, and a lot of them, as you can see, relate to grant projects. Charles Higgins and Son is on page 3, traffic light maintenance. Page 5, we have Eastern Salt. Luckily finished with that for the year. Enterprise. Enterprise Trust, purchase of vehicles. Oh, these are the new, are these the police cars or the public works cars through the new arrangement?
This was the new public works truck. And this one was hired because of the upfitting costs, which we have to pay for 50% of that.
So how did that happen? Because we had one in order, remember? So is this the same one, or we canceled it? Okay, and then they just took it on a lease agreement?
Mhm.
Okay. Makes sense. Hirschberg Mechanical, that's on page 6. Related to Public Works Garage renovation, that's the plumbing contractor. A little bit below that, JL Palillo, I always say that name wrong. That is the general contractor for the Public Works Garage. Are we ready to like have a grand opening? Yeah. Are we waiting on the lift, I guess?
It's still gonna be a couple months. Pico's giving us some trouble right now. Yeah, but we have a meeting with them on Monday. But yeah, probably looking at least 2 more months of construction.
Okay, then we have the estate of a fat mott. Providence Road multimodal, is that the payment related to the?
Right away. for the
Okay, so
sidewalk.
these are, we've discussed this in several meetings. We've had to generate payments to several owners along Providence Road related to some orphan land that's just sort of a title issue that came up as we're getting ready to do the sidewalk project on Providence Road. So hopefully we're very close to actually starting that. Moxie Mechanical, also related to the Public Works Garage renovation. That's our HVAC contractor. Several charges for Pico related to streetlights, traffic lights, and the various township-owned buildings. Recreation Resource, those are the dugouts for Hetford, which should go in very soon and hopefully ready for opening day, which is in a couple weeks. South Media Fire Company, it's ARPA allocation. We had allocated 15,000 to each firehouse and asked that they articulate a specific project it would be used for. And so South Media came to us several weeks ago, and they wanted to do improvements to the parking lot. Is that it? Now I'm forgetting what they wanted to do.
The driveway.
Yeah, the driveway. And that is it for the interim bills. Next is the AP card. Not a lot on the AP card this month, just, our recycling hauling fee. Nothing else to point out. On the AP bills list, we have Baker and Hostetter, our insurance claim. What does that relate to, do?
That was for the suspected IT
Mm.
incident that was not.
Oh, it turned out not to be something?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, there was no.
Fantastic. I was kind of curious what the resolution of that was. Okay, I guess we can discuss.
Yeah, we had a concern about our IT infrastructure and had someone come in to take a look, but it turned out not to be anything, which is great. So Catania Engineering, also several charges there. The first were on the interim list that were already paid. These are on our AP bills list. On page 2, our CPA charge for February services and our IT firm Go-To Technology, computer monitoring also for February. Another charge for Hirschberg Mechanical. This is, the first was paid on the interim bills list, is secondary charge also for plumbing at the Public Works garage. And similarly, Palilla Construction has a charge on page 2 as well. And finally, Lynn Architects. That is our February UNO inspections and building code inspections, most of which is reimbursable by charges to residents for those services. All right, so I will make a motion to adopt the interim bills list in the amount of $400,722.68. The AP card list in the amount of $34,915.07. And the AP bills list in the amount of $166,191.97. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. They can't fall through. 5-0. And then who should sign in place of vice president? Just another board member?
It's president and vice president?
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's under.
Yeah, I guess the next most senior council member.
Next
one,
senior.
With Robert.
Robert.
Yep.
Pass that down for Robert.
Commissioner Pro Tem.
Yeah.
All right, on to community health and environment with Commissioner Barnes.
Thank you. I only have one thing. The summer camp registration has begun. The cost is $295 for the entire 5-week program, and registration forms are on the website and at the township building. And I also highly recommend it. This will be the 3rd year my kids are going and they love it. So yay, that it's back. All right, that's the end of my report.
All right. Thank you. On to infrastructure and public works with Commissioner O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening again. We have 2 quick items on my agenda this evening. First one is the CDBG paving bids were received and requests for additional funding for additional roads. Township received bids from the CDBG program paving for the paving project in Garden City Manor. If I can get the words out. The bids came in favorably with AF Damon coming in with the low bid. Township has subsequently, I guess, proposed additional or adding several additional contiguous sections of New Jersey Avenue. OHCD, or the Office of Housing and Community Development, believes there is enough additional funding available to cover the extra cost, which totals $7,644 for a total grant of $157,644. So the board has a couple of options. We can either accept the low bid as is and consider whether or not to add the contingency of OHCD approval of the request for the additional funding, or we can accept the bid with the understanding that the township would cover the difference, again, which would be $7,644 if the request was not approved.
If I could just add, just this afternoon, we got the approval for the additional funding. So
Oh, great.
we have the full 157 amount available.
Okay.
So I guess my follow-up question is, this CDBG funding was being used for I believe, very specific court streets in the Manor area. So with the additional resurfacing, where does that kind of put us on completing all of those streets?
Further
Um,
along.
Yes,
Further along, I guess,
I don't know, Charles, what do you?
I'm trying to think if it completes it or not, because that might.
Doesn't.
It does not complete it. What we had applied for community development block grant funding for the next cycle coming up. That included additional streets in Garden City Manor. This is just moving one of the streets up.
Okay,
Into this cycle.
all right, so I'll still be using CDBG for roads then moving forward. Great, thank you.
So, any other questions, any other discussion?
No, I think we can just make a motion to.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So with that said, I would move or make a motion that we accept the low bid in the sum of I guess I would make a motion that we accept the bid of it from AF Damon for the grant total
Yeah, these are just the CDBG roads, so that's the total. 157.
for the grant total of $157,644. Do I have, thank you, Kate. Do I have
Yeah.
a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion, questions or comments? And hearing none, all in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries, and Candace is with us, so I assume the motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you so much. And the second and last item on my agenda is just an update, it looks like, regarding the township paving program. Township's paving program will begin in the next couple of weeks, and at the present time, we're currently awaiting approval of the county aid and as well as subsequent PennDOT approval before we proceed. And with that said, I have nothing further, Madam President.
Thanks, and I know, so the county aid is a little delayed, so were you able to get in touch with anyone at the county, Dave, to talk about
I
that?
did reach out
Okay.
to county council, they're looking into it.
Okay. So hopefully we'll get started on that shortly. And then finally, I will take building and zoning in Commissioner Carbone's place. Just a couple of updates, the 200.
Hey, Kate, Candace was.
Oh, that
willing-
she's up.
She was gonna give it a try. We'll
Okay.
make sure this works.
Even better.
Can you hear me?
Candace,
guys-
you hear us? You can take it away.
Can you hear me? Ah. Oh no, I don't think can you hear me?
I don't think we're hearing Candace.
you know,
Candace, can you hear us? Okay.
I can. You can't hear me though.
It was some of her thumbs in.
Yeah, she said she's trying.
is she muted?
No, she's not.
No.
Hmm. Kate, maybe we'll have to take this.
Yeah, I mean, these are just informational, so I
Yeah.
think that's fine.
Yeah.
So we have 205 Chestnut Parkway. Okay, so 3 items on the zoning agenda this month: 205 Chestnut Parkway, 414 New Jersey Ave, and 927 South Providence Road. 927 South Providence Road was continued. 414 is New Jersey Ave. Those are the, that's the vacant lot next to the new daycare that there's a proposal for 10 single-family semi-detached homes and 1 single-family detached home on the agenda. And the final item is for 205 Chestnut Parkway. That's a proposed subdivision of an existing parcel into 2 lots for single-family dwellings. And the existing house on lot 1 will remain. So if anyone has interest in those, please attend.
The
The,
planning.
I'm totally blanking on what is the zoning.
Planning.
Planning.
Zoning hearing board
Planning
meeting, my goodness. My vacation was too long. On to the manager's minute with Dave Grady.
Thank you, President McKenzie. Couple items. There is the bulk trash drop-off event this Saturday. It's at the usual 2 locations at South Media Fire Company and Hepford Park. The hours are from 10 to 2. Please no electronics or hazardous waste at the event. There is the upcoming Household Hazardous Waste event on Saturday, April 20th at the Emergency Services Training Center in Sharon Hill. Registration is required. The Birdtown event there's a Birdtown event scheduled for April 20th. It's the Spring Bird Walk. This is in connection with the Media, Nether Providence, Springfield, and Swarthmore Birdtown chapters. The walk will begin at 8 a.m. That will right after that at 9 o'clock, we are doing the kudzu removal at Furness Park. So you can join the burn walk at 8 o'clock and still have time to get over to Furness Park if you're interested.
So it's in Houston Park at 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
Just walk through the park.
Yep, they'll be looking for birds. The Public Works Garage will be open this Saturday for yard waste drop off from 8 a.m. to noon. The Helen Kate Furness Library is hosting 2 events that are coming up. One is this Friday. It is a food truck event. Give me 1 second here. They're doing Food Truck Fridays.
Oh, how cute.
The first is scheduled for this Friday from 5:30 to 7:30. They'll have another on April 12th and April 26th. This Friday is the Tattooed Pig and Rivalry on State. The 12th is the Flying Deutschman. And the 26th is the Munchie Machine and Scrape and Scoop Ice Cream with musical guest Last Chance. And then they are also hosting Jazz in the Stacks Thursday, April 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. The suggested donation amount is $20 and it will benefit the Helen Kate Furness Library.
Why is this happening here?
Yes, they're in your packets. We just got those today and happy to circulate those. Yeah, should be in the folder there. And then a couple of thank yous. First, I'd like to thank the Township's Public Works Department, John Ellis, Jim Boyer, Nick Navarro, Ryan Smith, Will Smith, Justin Bevan for all of the hard work that they did at the Fitzpatrick Morris storm drain. They repaired it in just 2 days, which was great and ended up saving the township a lot of money in doing that. Also like to thank Steve Gavigan, Darren Jackson, and Daryl Dixon Jr. for the other projects that they had to be taking on while these guys were focused on that. So it was an entire team effort. The department was proud of that. Also like to thank them for their hard work. Last week, they were able to bang out a lot of stuff at the Martha Burton Park project, which they're going to be restarting next week in conjunction with the Hepford Park dugout. So a lot of stuff going on with the Public Works Department, and they're doing a lot of hard work, and we appreciate that. I'd also like to thank the entire police department. Normally we do the one-offs for people, but I think in this case, with President Biden being in town, Chief Splain in particular did a ton of planning related to that, coordinating all of the various departments in Delaware County, the Secret Service, the state police, and our Public Works Department in getting President Biden through safely at the event at the Strathaven Middle School. It was a ton of effort, and a big thank you to Chief Splain and the police department for that. And then in administration, we'd like to thank John Colwick, one of our part-time employees who's helping us out with a ton of mailings as the summer camp registrations are coming in, as zoning notices are going out. We're also starting to get a lot more use and occupancy transfers, as you know, this is the time of year where people are starting to sell their homes again. So he's a big help with processing all of those. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much. We are adjourned, and our next meeting is this legislative meeting on April